So Muzzin and Tavares back in the lineup. How excited is Mike Babcock to have those two guys specifically back in his lineup?
Oh, I think quite excited. I mean, there's a couple things here. I mean, the fact that they're two of the leaders on the team and better players is part of it. But I also think that there's a little bit more urgency around the Leafs right now, trying to find something that looks like their best game. I mean, I think that anyone who observes them, be it someone in a player's stall, someone up here in the press box, the media, or fans, I've noticed that the Leafs have kind of had a bit of a sluggish start up and down. And, I think that they really want to get to a point where they're playing at least at their best and see how that measures up against some other teams in the league. And so, the best way to do that is to bring a guy like Tavares back and have your 1-2 punch with Austin Matthews down the middle. And, Jake Muzzin's probably been their steadiest defender this year when he's been healthy and playing.
Yeah, CJ, I find the Muzzin conversation so interesting. And on the radio on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, the guys on Good Show this morning were talking about Muzzin and what you do going forward and how you're able to retain him with the contract extension. I believe he's 34 years old. It might be his last big payday. I can't really envision a Leafs team right now that does not include Jake Muzzin. The only problem is trying to make the dollars and cents work. I'm sure they're going to try and keep him around, you would think, but that's going to be really difficult to do, is it not?
It is, as things look right now. I think the one thing when we're talking about the Leafs blue line beyond this season, though, is that there's a whole bunch of question marks, and Jake Muzzin is just one of them. You also have Tyson Barrie and Cody Ceci as unrestricted free agents. You have Travis Dermott, who needs a new contract as a restricted free agent. Even Justin Hall, who started now to play on their third pairing on the right side, is an unrestricted free agent. So they really have no one signed beyond this year other than Morgan Riley and then Rasmus Sandin, who's started the year in the NHL and has since been sent down to the AHL. So there's holes everywhere on the map. And as a result of that, I don't think you can say player X will be back or won't be back. I mean, there's certainly room to sign Jake Muzzin, but I think that there's an argument to be made that it might not be the best thing just because of where they sit in the cap and the fact that they really don't have any right shot defensemen, any options at that spot beyond this year. I mean, with Riley, Dermott, and Sandin, they have three lefties right there, and that's the hand that Jake Muzzin shoots. And so, some of that might come down to what other moves are made, if there's trades to address the holes there. I mean, I don't really know where they're going to proceed, and I think, frankly, at this point, management isn't totally sure. I mean, they've left their options open. They want to see how things materialize this year. And, I think that there's a scenario where he's back, but, if we're grading it on likeliness, it's more than likely he's going to go to the market on July 1st.
Chris Johnston joining us from the arena in downtown Toronto. Elliot Friedman mentioned in his 31 Thoughts that the folks that were sniffing around the Leafs' big money guys were told that they're going to go, or at least have a go, with their best lineup. Are you hearing similar things, and how many people are sniffing around the Leafs' big money guys?
Well, those are the type of conversations that go on with GMs all the time. Would you consider this? What are you thinking about this? And, with the Leafs, the one consistent call that they've had, I think even going back to last year, is around some of their young wingers, that being Kasperi Kapanen, Andreas Johnston, and then William Nylander. Three players who are now each signed for the next couple seasons because the Leafs got contract business done with all of them in the last year. But I think that those are players around the league that teams wonder if, with Toronto having so much depth at the forward position, even having a couple other guys, younger players that play the wing, that is an area of surplus for them that they might deal from. And I think at this point in time, it doesn't really make much sense to do that unless they really feel they need to upgrade even further to their blue line. So, I think that they will be patient just because they haven't seen a healthy lineup yet. I mean, Zach Hyman still hasn't played a game this season. We believe that'll come, if not Thursday, then probably on Saturday night. And so I think that they do want to get this team up and running and see if what they thought in the summer works out. And then, there's still lots of time before February to make changes if they don't like the mix.
So let's work under the assumption that Hyman returns on Saturday against the Philadelphia Flyers. I know there's a few different ways Kyle Dubas can go in terms of working with his roster and putting Hyman back in. If you had to venture a guess, CJ, and I'm sure you've thought about this for some time, who do you think goes? Do they make a deal? Like, is Nick Patan playing tonight because they're showcasing him for a trade? Let's say come Sunday morning or Saturday night at game time, what do you think this roster looks like?
Well, I mean, the simple math is they have to eliminate 3 of the depth players that are currently on the roster to get under the limit with Hyman activated. And, I don't know exactly how that's going to go, to be honest. I mean, Nick Patan, if he isn't traded, it doesn't need waivers at this point. He's already cleared in the last 30 days. And so, he's able to be sent down to the Marlies again if he isn't dealt. And the Leafs have made him available to other teams. Sent out a note to the GMs letting them know that he was available. Then it gets interesting. I mean, if we assume that he's one of the departures, then, you have 2 spots to be made from a group that includes Martin Marincin, Dmitry Timashov, Nick Shore, and Jason Spezza. And, each of those players would need to be put on waivers. So, obviously one of them could be dealt or perhaps someone else on the roster. And, I don't know how it's going to go. I mean, what I can tell you is in tonight's lineup, where you have a choice of those players, it's Timashov and Spezza that are sitting, and Marincin as well on the back end. But, I don't know how in particular they're going to handle someone like Jason Spezza, who obviously is a veteran who came here, after being pitched pretty hard by the team and signed a league minimum contract. And, actually, in my opinion, has not been very bad in the role that he's in. He's got 4 points in 9 games while playing very little minutes, very few minutes. I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but that's certainly something that is getting a little bit more imminent for management because, it really does sound like Zach Hyman is, basically at the last stage here to be cleared and ready to play.
All right, there's a bunch of games tonight, and I want to get to a few of the other ones. Listen, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the Islanders and the Senators looking for their second straight road win, but the Islanders are playing some wonderful hockey. So are the Boston Bruins, and they're in Montreal to face the Canadiens last night. Now, the Bees played last night, but they're going Tuukka Rask, Carey Price. The run that top line that Boston is on right now is ridiculous. Is it sustainable, Chris?
Probably not at the level it's at, but I mean, that's been the best line in the league the last couple seasons, in my opinion. So, I still expect them to be absolutely dominant, but, what you're seeing from them right now is bonkers. I tweeted it out, Brad Marchand had 0 points in the first game and then has a point streak ever since then, including a couple of 5-point nights here in the last week and a half or so. Pasternak scoring a goal a game. That Bergeron guy is pretty good. I mean, at this point, you have a line that could include the Rocket Richard Trophy winner in Pasternak, the Hart Trophy winner in Brad Marchand, and the Selke winner, the guy who's always up for that, in Patrice Bergeron. And that's probably fantasy land. Unfortunately, those guys will divide their own votes because they play together so much. But, they are at a serious level right now. And I think the goaltending is probably the part of the Bruins story that gets overlooked a little bit. They have two goalies that they literally will roll out any night. I mean, Halak played the first half of the back-to-back last night. I know he ended up letting in 4 in that game, but they still got a victory. And, basically it's about a 53-47 split in terms of percentage of starts, with Rask getting a little bit more. But, the Bruins still have the best team save percentage in the league despite, rolling their goaltenders that way. And I think that's a huge advantage in terms of keeping Rask fresh for the playoffs, and that paid off for him last year. And just, having such balance at that position is a rare thing to have, and such a top-heavy top line. I mean, they're probably the best team in the league right now.